The RCMP are still working to definitively link those weapons that were found with the murder investigations in northern BC. In the release, the police saying this: while both individuals were deceased for a number of days before they were found, the exact time and date of their deaths are not known. However, there are strong indications they had been alive for a few days since last seen in July and during the extensive search efforts that went on in the Gillam area. Of course, Gillam is that area in northern Manitoba that was very much the focus of a huge search that went on. Let's bring in CTV's public safety analyst, Chris Lewis, a man with many, many years in law enforcement. Chris, your thoughts on these results coming in?
Well, it's nice to finally know. There's been a lot of speculation, of course. I was surprised personally that it was a double suicide. I kind of suspected more murder-suicide. But having said that, I'm glad the bodies have been identified, so they know they've got the right individuals. I don't know that that'll ever bring closure to the victims of the murders or even the families of these two deceased men, but at least that piece is over with. At the same time, trying to prove that they actually committed the three murders, the one they were charged with in the case of the one gentleman, and of course the young couple that they haven't been charged in. So it's going to take some time, maybe with laboratory tests being what they are, but to have them actually linked to the crime scenes in both cases will bring a lot of relief to the RCMP in terms of knowing there's not two killers running around out there still. Yeah,
well said. And let me ask you if I can tap into your expertise in law enforcement, Chris, because you worked with the Ontario Provincial Police for many, many years. Your read on what's next here in terms of that investigation, trying to figure out what happened, determining motive potentially.
Well, I don't know that we'll ever know motive. I think, I'm assuming this was just kind of a harebrained thing that went awry. They decided to do a robbery and kill somebody. In the case of the couple that were killed, assuming that these two guys did it, of course. I think the whole world assumes that. So for the RCMP, linking them to that scene, well, forensic on those two firearms linked them to those murders or bullets found in the vehicle or whatever the case may be. Did they steal something from that scene that would link them to the scene? A camera, phones, something, God knows what. Australian money, like you just never know what they might have found. Or was there some hair fiber type evidence that forensically they can match them to the scene? That's, I think, the key thing at this point, but we're no longer looking for, we're not into a big manhunt. The whole province and other provinces are, in fear. So at least that piece is over with, but lots to happen still.
Yeah, investigators now assessing, Chris, all items located in Manitoba, as the press release says. Something else I'm curious about, the fact that if we can go backwards a little bit, that these two were identified as the prime suspect in the case of Leonard Dick, that botanist from the University of British Columbia, and his death, and also wanted in connection with the deaths of China Deese and Lucas Fowler. Does that mean to you, based on your expertise, your work in investigations, that something was found on those sites where those murders happened?
There must have been some evidence to link them to the murder of the Mr. Dick from the Vancouver area to lay a charge. Now, I believe the vehicle they had been traveling in, the suspects, was found burnt out in that immediate area, which is huge. So yes. It doesn't necessarily they did a murder. So there has to be more to it than that for them to have laid a charge. They've held all that back, assuming that they might have a trial at some point as the manhunt was on and before the bodies were identified. The RCMP released none of that information to the public, but I don't see why they can't now. There's no potential criminal trial issues to consider. So, hopefully we'll hear more. Not that that will change our lives, but I think the public needs to know. So the public, not the families, can put some closure behind all this.
CTV public safety analyst Chris Lewis joining us with his take on this breaking news today. Thank you, Chris, as always.
Anytime, Todd.